Welcome back to SciByte, everybody, where we explore the mysteries of the infinite universe and all the tools and technology science is using to get to the bottom of it all. I'm your call-in Skype call host, Heather, and making a special appearance once again in the studio, there is Chris.
Hey there, Heather. Thanks for having me back on
Hello.
SciByte. Yeah, so last week I filled in for the J-Man because he got the con cred this week, and last week he was at PAX. So last weekend we took the show off because he went to PAX, and then now this week he took it off because he got sick at PAX.
Well, you know.
That's the way it goes. So we thought we'd have another quick fun episode just to get something out there for you guys, because there has been one topic that's been on the SciByte agenda for a little while that you guys haven't gotten to yet, right?
Yeah. We've talked about it in a post show, in our lightning show. It ended up in the outtakes. Warp drive and kind of that general idea.
Yeah, that's right. That was actually just like a conversation that you and the J-Man were having, so he just decided to include it at the end in the outtakes, and he kind of made a joke about like creating a wormhole to get around some of the issues science has with warp drive.
Yes.
Now, I don't really know much about warp drive, so I'll let you handle the science side of it, but I know how the Star Trek warp drive works. Should we set it up how it works in the Star Trek world? Because that I can wrap my brain around, and maybe we can go from there.
Go for it.
All right. So we did some really in-depth show research ahead of time to find how We consulted the Book of Knowledge, also known as Wikipedia. We also consulted the second best book of knowledge, also known as Memory Alpha.
Yes.
And then also the Star Trek technical manuals. And what we kind of found, and Heather, credit goes to you for finding this really awesome diagram of how the Star Trek warp drive works, is you can kind of see it's essentially bending or compacting space and then moving between that compacted area.
Yeah.
And then it's essentially creating itself a shorter distance to travel. Right?
I think so.
Because the space has been pulled together and it only has to travel that area that's been pulled together, that's essentially less space to travel. There's also the other theory where there is a wave that's generated behind the Enterprise of space, and then it pushes the Enterprise forward, sort of like almost
ride the wave.
Yeah, like you're surfing. Yeah, surfing the warp wave. In fact, they did do an episode in The Next Generation where they do that. Right. Yeah, and then of course there's also the version you see on Star Trek where it is a warp bubble, and then that bubble sort of bends and flies them through space. Yeah. So all of these things seem like they must rely on some sort of massive gravity drive or something. I mean, that's really what they must be dealing with. Well,
sort of. I mean, like bringing it into reality, it's all ways to get around the, Einstein's theory of special relativity that says, the closer you get to the speed of light, the harder it is to get there and the more energy you have to take.
Right.
So you either have to get around that, to find like a loophole in science, you kind of either have to bend space-time itself or create a bubble around you that's sort of normal space. And then you kind of ride the wave or scoot through the universe somehow by altering space-time around you so that you yourself are doing just fine. And you're just kind of moving a bubble of normal space through the universe.
Seems like the power requirements to fold space like that.
Yeah, that's one of the big problems.
Right? Even if you had even antimatter or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, some math says, even to move like a couple grams of stuff in one of these ways that they're theorizing about, that it would take like the energy of half the universe to move a few grams. So it's still trying to figure out the right way to do it. I mean, there's principles where you say, what if you set up like a path, like a moving walkway in like you see in an airport, so that you're not moving, you're just kind of standing. But the universe behind you is expanding, like the walkway sort of pops out of the ground and expands, and the walkway in front of you sort of bloops down into the floor, so it's sort of shrinking in a way.
Right.
So you're expanding the universe behind you and shrinking it in front of you and sort of riding the wave down a special pathway to get from one place to another.
Sort of like so it'd be a persistent pathway, so whatever resources were needed to sustain that would be more fixed objects that maybe would be easier to power than like a ship that has to be mobile.
Yeah. So that's, there's some theories that are like that. So you have to kind of have one ship that takes the slow route and lays a pathway down, paves a road for you, and then everyone can take the highway to that planet.
So the other thing that when I think of like, I've never thought of like the beltway in space or whatever you want to call it, the space. I guess it's like the ultimate space elevator. But I have thought of like, what about like some sort of persistent portal that would be built, and then it always would seem like you could use the gravity of something else substantial to sort of ride on top of that. Like if the sun, if a sun sits in a solar system, and sort of, if you remember those grids where it's a big ball and it weighs down gravity and it's pulling things into it, if you could build like a gateway in that area where you're already taking the advantage of the gravity bending nature of an existing object, maybe you could sort of cheat on the power usage and save on how much power you actually have to generate if you can capitalize on what the sun is already doing in terms of bending gravity. I don't know. And then if you could build some sort of like wormhole that would then connect to another object that is bending gravity, and sort of just your technology would
Stargate wormholes.
Yeah, you would use the technology to just sort of take those two objects that are bending gravity and just connect them.
I mean, you're still making sure that, does this into the wormhole? You're creating a wormhole, so how do you just create a wormhole? So I'm not sure that, I'm not entirely sure that we've...
Oh, no, yeah, no, that's no problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're getting into that point where in sci-fi books I've read, they come up with one star travel technology and the ship takes off. And when they get there, the people who left 20 years later when they discovered some new, faster form of travel are already waiting there going, "Hi, guys."
Yeah, nice you to get here finally. What took you so long?
It took you so long. We've been waiting for you. On the positive side, your home's already set up, and the guys that took the fast route did all the hard work, but
that's
you're
true.
like, "Oh, I'm not the pioneer anymore." Oh, well.
So we've never been able to even reproduce anything like this. This is still so far off in the realm of theory. There was just that story that they think they with 95% confidence have proved that the God particle is
the Higgs boson particle.
Wait, isn't that what the LCH is supposed to be trying to find?
That's one of the things that it's trying to find. And for a while there, it was looking positive. It was like, oh, we see things that look like what it should be, because we kind of knew if they exist, these are the kind of properties they should have. This is kind of what the weight of it should be. So they were looking, and they saw things that kind of looked similar, and then suddenly they come out and go like, oh, wait.
Chat room's yelling at me because it's LHC, Large Hadron Collider.
Yes.
So
my brain dyslexic back to the right order.
It seems like we are still struggling with these fundamental issues, like trying to figure out these particles. So if we can't really get this figured out, we're probably quite a ways off from bending space.
Well, yeah, but we can still look at the math and think of, we're essentially what we're doing is like, all right, this is what we think about science. Let's find the loopholes so that we could do the awesome things that we really want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I've read some sci-fi books that say, it's all about, if you can create a bubble or if you can create a gravity thing, it's creating a set pathway or being able to turn something on and off. Can you turn in mid-flight, or do you have to kind of point really carefully, turn on for a little while, and then turn off and be like, where am I?
Right. Did I make it? Did I go the right direction? Right.
Do you turn on for just part of the way and then be like, oh, wait, it's over there.
Turn. Yeah. Probably. So what is the Alcubierre drive? What is this? It sounds like something I put on my top of my ice cream.
Alcubierre.
Alcubierres. This must be something that we didn't come up with.
This is...
we as in the United States.
This is a guy back, I think, in 1994. He was... I don't think he didn't have his PhD yet. I know he was an undergrad or a grad.
This was the guy that came up with the sidewalks idea?
Yeah, this is the sidewalks idea. And he's thinking, he's watching... He literally admits he was watching Star Trek. And he's like, I wonder. And he started, doing the math and doing the science and saying, what if we did it this way? And sort of kind of found a loophole that might work and brought it to his professor and said, hey, what do you think of this? Yeah, I think we should put this down in a paper.
Aha.
And so, helped him write a paper to publish it.
It strikes me, though, it seems like anything we're doing to bend space would also bend the crap out of the ship, right? Like, just rip it up. So how do you protect the ship that's traveling either through this space ramp or through, like, a wormhole or whatever?
Well, that's some of the problems is you have to have a bubble of normal space. And the ship has to be within a certain part of that bubble. It has to have like a little buffer zone. You get too close to the edge of the bubble and things start going crazy. So you have to be smaller, and then...
Oh, okay. So it's like a sweet spot.
And then there are some theories that say, if you're so big, then you can't touch the outside of the ship, so there's really no way to, go and say, turn off the drive. So you just kind of have to have pre-program everything. And then you're sitting in the roller coaster with no control of what's going on. You just end up where you end up.
Right, like you're saying. How do you turn off a gravity drive? It seems like that's a process that once you start doesn't really stop.
Yeah.
Unless you have just enough energy that it would only burn itself out at the right time or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen some sci-fi books where they decide we're not going to push the starship. We're going to put something at the tip of the nose of the starship and be able to turn on a huge source of gravity.
Yeah.
And it's just going to fling us behind, pull it behind us, like, horse in front of the cart.
Yeah.
And then be able to turn it off.
Maybe it'll be a hybrid solution, Mars. Maybe it'll be something like that. Remember that show we were talking about last week where they had where they'd set off the bombs behind the ship, and that's what
yeah.
Maybe it'll be like some sort of bomb that can fold space. So, and that'll set it off, and then we just ride the wave with some sort of big dish, some sort of big surfboard, right? There you go.
Big surfboard spaceship.
Yeah.
And wait till the wave dies out.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so, I mean, this is really just going to be kind of a fun, short topic episode. Was there anything else you wanted to throw in on the warp drive stuff?
If you're interested in this kind of stuff, check the show notes.
Yep.
Follow it over to Jupiter Broadcasting.
Yeah, you actually have a link on. I should have pulled this up while you were talking about it. There's a nice link on here about this. It looks actually much cooler than I was giving it credit for. About this space walkway.
I think that's the wormhole transportation.
Oh yeah, it is. But God, look how cool these drawings are.
Oh, yeah.
That is so neat. So there you go. So this actually got a couple different ones on there because here's the one you were talking about.
Yeah, so it has all sorts of faster than light travel ideas.
And also a couple we didn't talk about, like negative mass propulsion drives.
Oh yeah.
And Mills hypothetical space drives. So you can check all those out in the show notes and enjoy, as well as all kinds of other things in there, like information about general relativity. That's always some light reading.
Oh yeah. If you're bored and you need to blow a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Just load that up, put it on your Instapaper. You're good to go. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of SciByte. Now, Heather and the J-Man should be back next week. Kong Crud, notwithstanding. Hopefully he'll be able to lick it. With science, I'm sure. I'm sure the J-Man is at home right now practicing the most sound science to cure himself as possible. Especially because he needs to come for our Jupiter Night episode that we're going to be shooting all about PAX, and I want him to share his PAX stories. So if you haven't seen that, we also have a bunch of PAX videos we released over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/PAX. You go there, you see some of the videos right there. There's probably more up since this episode has been released, so go check those out. Definitely. Okay, Heather. Have a great science week, and we'll see you right back here next Wednesday.